Dexter. New Blood brought me back. Older, colder, but still me. A fresh setting, a new identity, and a different kind of challenge. But beneath the surface, there were details, small, deliberate pieces that tied back to my old life, clues that most people overlooked. In this video, we'll explore 10 hidden details in Dexter New Blood that you may have missed. Subtle moments that connect to my past, reminders of what I was and what I was trying to leave behind. By the end, you'll be ready to watch the entire season again, this time with sharper eyes and maybe a better understanding of what I really am. The return of the iconic theme song. At the start of the first episode, I go about my morning routine, errands, small talk, blending in, just another ordinary day as Jim Lindsay. But listen closely. There's something familiar in the air, a tune, faint, subtle, yet unmistakable for anyone who knows my past. It's a rendition of the original Dexter theme. Not loud, not obvious, just enough to stir memories in those who followed me before. The showrunners were clever. They knew this quiet nod would strike a chord with longtime fans. Unlike the bold opening theme of the original series, this version lingers quietly in the background, a whisper of my old life. It's more than nostalgia, it's a warning. That tune plays whenever my dark passenger stirs, a reminder that no matter how far I try to run, the part of me that craves blood is never really gone. For years I kept it locked away, but that melody, it signals the cracks forming in my carefully constructed life. It's a subtle hint, one most viewers miss, that Jim Lindsay was never going to last forever. The real me was always waiting for the right moment to return. Deborah's lingering presence. Deborah was always a part of my life, loud, emotional, impossible to ignore. But in Dexter New Blood, she became something else, my inner voice, the constant presence in my mind where Harry used to be. In the original series, Harry was my guide, calm, logical, always reminding me to follow the code. But Deborah doesn't guide me. She haunts me. She's chaotic, angry, a reflection of the guilt I try so hard to bury. And she's wearing the same clothes she died in, those dull, blood-stained clothes from her final moments. That's no accident. It's a reminder that I haven't forgiven myself, that no matter how much I try to push it away, her death still clings to me. In my mind, Deborah is frozen in that moment, forever stuck in the tragedy I caused. Her presence isn't just my guilt, it's my punishment. I convinced myself that the code was enough, that I could keep killing and move forward as if my mistakes would disappear. But Deborah, she's proof that the past never truly fades. No matter how carefully I build a new life, no matter how far I run, she's always there, reminding me that the blood I spilled will never really wash away. Batista's cameo and the Bay Harbor butcher reference. The biggest surprise in Dexter New Blood wasn't a body count or a new twist. It was a familiar face. Angel Batista, one of Miami Metro's best, resurfaced. Now older, but still sharp. At a law enforcement conference, he brought up the Bay Harbor butcher case, a chilling reminder that my past wasn't as forgotten as I'd hoped. During his speech, Batista mentioned Maria Laguerta, his old partner, the one who refused to let go of her suspicion that I was the Bay Harbor butcher. That small mention carried weight. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was a reminder that my sins had never truly faded. Laguerta's death wasn't just a tragic end to a relentless detective's career. It was part of the long shadow my actions still cast over those I've hurt. This scene wasn't just about Batista's return, it was a turning point. Angela, Iron Lake's police chief, was there, and she was listening closely. As Batista spoke, you could see the gears turning in her mind. His words planted a seed, a dangerous suspicion that would grow into something far worse. Batista didn't know it, but in that moment, he did more than revisit an old case. He unknowingly set the wheels in motion that would expose me once and for all. His return wasn't just a clever nod to the past. It was a warning. No matter how far I ran, no matter how carefully I built this new life, my past was always close behind, waiting for the right moment to catch up with me. Harrison's dark passenger hint. During this scene, Harrison is listening to a true crime podcast about the Bay Harbor butcher. To most people, it's just a passing detail. But to me, it was a red flag. It wasn't just curiosity. It was something deeper, something familiar. Fascination with serial killers, with violent minds. It's the kind of interest that doesn't come from nowhere. Throughout Dexter New Blood, There are hints, quiet but undeniable, that Harrison may be fighting his own dark passenger. His obsession with stories about stalkers and rapists isn't just casual listening, it's a glimpse into something that could grow far darker. Then there's the Bay Harbor Butcher, a case tied directly to me. Harrison was in Miami when it all happened, too young to understand the truth at the time, but if he keeps listening, keeps connecting the dots, he may realize that his father isn't the man he thinks I am. This scene isn't just about a podcast, it's about the tension building between us. I've done everything I can to shield Harrison from the darkness I carry, but he's still drawn to it. The more curious he becomes, the harder it is to keep my past buried. Our bond was always fragile, and this, his fascination, his growing questions, it's proof that we're headed towards something neither of us can control. This detail might seem small, but it's a warning, one that signals that Harrison's mind isn't so different from mine, and sooner or later, that darkness will come to the surface. The Iron Lake Butcher newspaper clipping. In this scene, a brief flash of a newspaper clipping reveals a chilling headline, Iron Lake Butcher strikes again. It's easy to overlook, just another headline in a small town paper. But for me, it meant something far worse. That headline wasn't just a piece of local news, it was a mirror reflecting my past. The Bay Harbor Butcher, Miami's infamous killer, the one who nearly cost me everything. And now, here it was again. History repeating itself. The name Iron Lake Butcher was more than just a label. It was a sign that people were noticing, that my carefully constructed life was starting to unravel. In Miami, the Bay Harbor Butcher case put me at risk. For a time, I thought I'd outsmarted the system, that I'd escaped. But now, in Iron Lake, the same pattern was emerging. Disappearances, suspicion, whispers of a hidden predator. I had tried to keep myself hidden, to control the urges that once defined me, but my actions were starting to expose me. The newspaper clipping wasn't just a headline, it was a warning. It meant the police were watching. Angela was putting the pieces together, slowly but surely, closing in on the truth. The murders weren't just noise in the background, they were signs that my past had followed me here, no matter how hard I tried to bury it. This time, there would be no easy escape. The past has a way of catching up, and this time, I knew the walls were closing in. Kurt Caldwell's trophy room. During this nightmarish moment, Harrison and I stumbled upon Kurt Caldwell's secret chamber, a twisted monument to his cruelty. Rows of embalmed victims, perfectly preserved behind glass, frozen in death. It's a grotesque display, one that instantly reminded me of my own past. Kurt's collection mirrored my old ritual, the blood slides I once kept hidden. Each drop represented a life I took, a controlled reminder of what I believed was justice. But Kurt's display, it was something else entirely. Cold, callous, a collection built not on purpose, but pleasure. Where I sought balance, Kurt sought control, a methodical murderer who turned his victims into lifeless trophies. For Harrison, this was a revelation. The moment he saw the true nature of killers like Kurt, and like me. He'd spent so much time trying to understand me, questioning my actions, struggling to grasp what I was, but this was different. Seeing Kurt's twisted legacy forced him to confront the hardest question of all, whether killing can ever be justified, even if done with purpose. This moment wasn't just about Kurt's secrets, it was a reflection of my own, because no matter how carefully I tried to shape my kills into something meaningful, the truth was simple. I'm still a killer. My darkness isn't defined by purpose, it's driven by something far more dangerous. The need to rationalize the blood I spill. In that room, surrounded by Kurt's trophies, Harrison wasn't just horrified by what Kurt had done, he was starting to see me for what I really am. Angela's, hello, Dexter Morgan moment. In this pivotal scene, Angela confronts me, and the first words out of her mouth are chilling. Hello, Dexter Morgan. It's more than just a greeting. It's a callback to one of the most haunting moments from my past. Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity killer, once greeted me with those very words, and in that instant, I knew I'd been exposed. Now, hearing Angela say it, I knew my time was running out. Dexter New Blood uses this phrase with purpose, a deliberate echo of my past mistakes. When Trinity said it, I felt doomed, trapped with no way out. Angela's words carried that same weight. My carefully crafted life in Iron Lake, Jim Lindsay, the man I tried to become, was gone. My cover was blown, and this time, escape wouldn't come easily. Angela isn't a killer like Trinity. She doesn't need to be. In this moment, she's the one in control. She's done her homework, gathered enough evidence to connect me to Matt Caldwell's murder and more. Her words aren't just a greeting, they're justice catching up with me. This moment isn't just a confrontation, it's a reckoning. My lies, my secrets, everything I've spent years burying are finally coming to the surface. When someone says my full name like that, it only ever means one thing. My time is up. The return of the code. In this crucial scene, I finally explain the code of Harry to Harrison, a set of rules designed to give purpose to my darkness. It's more than just a set of instructions. It's what kept me alive. Harry created the code to ensure that I only targeted those who deserved to die. Murderers, abusers, predators. And now, I believed passing it down to Harrison could save him from becoming something worse. But Harrison's response wasn't what I expected. He didn't embrace the code the way I once did. Instead, he questioned it, challenged it. Unlike me, Harrison's anger doesn't come from the cold, calculating urge to control violence. His darkness is driven by something else, pain. And in that pain, he sees the code not as a tool for discipline, but as an excuse, a way to justify murder. In that moment, I realized Harrison wasn't like me. His darkness wasn't something he could compartmentalize like I had. It was raw, emotional, unpredictable. The code, which I'd always seen as essential, felt artificial to him, a cage I was trying to force him into. This wasn't just a clash of ideas. It was a reminder that Harrison wasn't my reflection. He wasn't just another version of me. He was his own person, shaped by different pain, different choices. Where I believed the code could control his urges, Harrison saw it as a lie, a way to hide behind rules, instead of facing the truth about what we are. This moment wasn't just about teaching the code, it was the start of a deeper conflict. I thought the code could bind us together, but Harrison believed it would only drive us further apart. And in the end, that difference could determine whether he follows my path, or chooses his own. The final letter. At the end of Dexter New Blood, Harrison finds and reads my letter to Hannah, the letter I wrote long ago, when I believed I was doing the right thing. That moment offers something I rarely allowed myself: honesty. In the letter, I confessed my deepest hope, that Harrison would grow up far away from me, safe from the darkness I carried. I wanted him to have a life untouched by blood and violence, a life where he wouldn't be forced to wrestle with the urges I knew all too well. That's why I left him with Hannah. I believed she could give him something I never could: normality. Reading those words now, after everything we've been through, forced Harrison to see me for who I really was, a man trapped between love and darkness. No matter how much I wanted to protect him, my own nature always stood in the way. That letter wasn't just a goodbye. It was my final attempt to guide Harrison toward a better path. After years of justifying my actions, of convincing myself I could balance my urges with some twisted sense of justice, I finally faced the truth. My actions had consequences, and I couldn't outrun them forever. The letter was my last chance to give Harrison what I couldn't in life: a choice. He could walk the path I did, or he could break free, step away from the cycle of violence I spent years spinning in. In the end, the letter was more than a confession. It was a farewell, one last attempt to steer my son toward something better, even if it meant leaving me behind. Dexter New Blood was more than just a continuation. It was a story laced with hidden details that connected back to the life I tried to leave behind. These moments didn't just fill the gaps between past and present. They reminded me that no matter how much I changed, my old life was always lurking in the shadows. If you missed these hidden clues, a rewatch might reveal even more. Subtle reminders of who I was and what I tried to become. The blood slides, Deborah's presence, the faint echoes of my past. They were all signs that my darkness was never far away. Did you catch these details when watching Dexter New Blood? If you spotted other hidden connections, share them in the comments. Revisiting the series with sharper eyes might uncover even more secrets, clues that show my past was always waiting, just beneath the surface.